I don't know about you guys, those of you who are in your 70s or older, but for me, when I turned 70 years old, for the first time in my life, psychologically and physically, I felt officially old. Which was kind of funny because when I was 69 years old, I felt exactly the same way I had always felt since I was in my 20s. I didn't feel old at all. But when I turned 70 years old, everything changed. Mentally, in my mind, I still feel like I'm 20 years old. So that hasn't really changed. But psychologically and realistically and just practically, once I reached 70, it just sort of hit me. And I was ready to finally admit, I guess, that my days are numbered. I just looked it up, and the average life expectancy of a male here in the US in 2025 is 79 years old. And I was thinking about my dad, who died about 10 years ago. He was 79 years old when he died. My grandfather died when he was only 72. It really hit me that I had already outlived most of my friends and family members who died before they reached the age of 70. Some of them died years before they reached the age of 70. So I'm 71 years old now, and already my health has changed dramatically. Before turning 70, I don't think I had ever had an operation, never been in the hospital for anything serious. In my 69 years, I had been very, very lucky. But then I turned 70, and that was the year, some of you will remember if you've been watching my channel for a while, I started when I was walking, because I walk every day, and I've been walking every day pretty much my entire life, but seriously walking for health and exercise since my 20s and 30s. When I was in my 20s, I was actually running. I had to stop doing that because I was starting to get knee pains. And once I stopped running, my knees were fine, and I've just walked ever since. And pretty much almost every day since then, I've been walking for health and exercise, and just because I love walking. But about 9 months ago, I was walking and I started having chest pains. And if you want to know more about that, you can go back and watch that video I shared about my chest pains and having to go into the hospital for almost a week, where 3 stents were placed in my heart arteries. And since then, I haven't felt the same. I haven't felt as good as I felt before the operation or the procedure. I'm not really sure if it's because of my heart still, or if now it's the medications. I'm on, half a dozen medications to make sure that my body doesn't reject the stents, and to keep my blood pressure low, and various things because of the stents. And they all have a lot of side effects. And so I just haven't really felt myself. I've never been back to normal since the heart procedure. I feel fine. I still walk every day, but I walk a lot slower, and I'm kind of afraid to walk up hills. Well, I shouldn't say I'm just afraid. I actually have tried walking up hills a couple of times, and I started having the pressure again in my chest. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but my cardiologist is monitoring everything. The other thing that really dramatically changed, it's almost like a biological clock. And I mean, it probably is your biological clock. You reach a certain age. I reached 70 years old, and all of a sudden my skin tone changed dramatically. I don't know if you can see it, but in the video here, but I can really see it. I mean, my skin is really loose, and it looks like crepe paper. And I never had that before. I didn't have that when I was 69. It's like I turned 70, all of a sudden my skin turned to crepe paper. And if I move, my arm just in a certain way, and look, and I've got, my grandmother used to call these liver spots. And I've had these actually for probably 10 years or so, but I'm starting to get these all over the place now. And so I got the crepe paper skin, I got the liver spots or the old age spots. And so just another reminder that that I'm old. But a lot of this really just happened as soon as I turned 70. All of a sudden, my hands, on your hands, that's usually the first place you start noticing the liver spots or the old age spots. And I really have started to notice, they're really starting to grow. I had some specks and some freckles. I've always had freckles, but now these freckles are getting bigger and turning into what my grandmother would call liver spots. So I've never really been that vain, so I'm not that bothered by it, but it's just another reminder from my body that I am old, and that I'm now 70. I'm now in my 70s. I guess even before I turned 70, maybe I was already thinking about this. I always thought that for me, 70 was old age. Definitely a senior citizen, even though, 65, you can start getting Medicare here in the US, and you can retire when you're 62 and start getting Social Security, and they're all just numbers. But 70 was the number for me where I knew that, to me, seemed like an old person. Someone who's 70 is definitely an old person, not someone who's getting old. You're already old. 69, I don't know, I still felt like I was just getting old, but 70, it was like it hit me. It hit me hard psychologically. I don't know, are you guys the same? Did that do the same to you, to those of you who are now in your 70s? The other thing is, when I was in my 60s, I still felt like I had quite a long time to live. I didn't really feel that old yet. But once I turned 70, it really hit me again like a ton of bricks. Like, okay, your time is limited. You have a certain amount of time left. And like I mentioned earlier, if the average lifespan is 79, and my dad died at 79, my mom died at 85, but women usually live, 5 years or so longer than men in general anyway. So in all likelihood, if I'm lucky enough to live until I just die naturally is probably going to be around 79. Well, I'm 71 now. Well, I'm almost 72, so that's only 7 years away. It's weird when you think, okay, you may only have 7 years left. Well, I mean, of course, you could die at any time, at any age. So we all, in the back of our minds, know that. But I think once you're 70 and in your 70s, that knowledge moves to the very front of your consciousness and you think about it a lot more. At least I do. I have since I turned 70. So, I mean, I accept that, and, even though psychologically I'm more aware of it, I guess awareness is probably the word that I'm looking for. My age has just made me much more aware of the limited amount of time I probably have left. And in turn, that's made me think more about how do I want to spend my remaining days? How do I want to spend the rest of my life? I'm really lucky that at 71, I still have really good health for the most part. I mean, except for my heart issues, but hopefully the stents have taken care of those problems. The change in diet has, in the lowering of the cholesterol, really decreases the chance of a heart attack or a stroke. And with the medications to lower my blood pressure, well, that was the other weird thing. When I was in my 60s, I think even 69, my blood pressure was always really low. In fact, it was usually on the low side. Never had high blood pressure ever. And then I turned 70, and that year when I had my heart issues, all of a sudden my blood pressure just skyrocketed. I didn't change my diet, I didn't change my exercise, I didn't change anything in my life. It was just something internally that changed, maybe my heart, I guess. But now I have high blood pressure and I have to take medication for it. So the medication does keep it very low, or it keeps it normal, and actually most of the time below normal, which is fine. But I think if I stopped taking the medication, I would probably have high blood pressure. Now, my mom had high blood pressure, and she ended up dying from a stroke. I mean, the stroke caused her lots of issues, and she actually ended up dying from a stroke and a broken hip and other things. They all sort of happened all at the same time. But a lot of it was related to the high blood pressure and the stroke. So that was just another thing that just changed without any changes on my part. I was still doing everything the same, and I went from low blood pressure to high blood pressure like overnight. But I can honestly say I've never been as happy as I've been now. I'm as happy or happier than I've ever been in my life at 71. I can still do almost everything that I could do when I was in my 20s, so that makes me happy as well. I'm also the most content I've ever been. I think having done all the things in my life that I wanted to do and reached retirement and reached old age and feeling very grateful and fortunate to have reached this age and to have financial stability and health stability and psychological stability. I mean, some might disagree with that, but for the most part, I've been very, very lucky and very fortunate. So to have made it this far in really good health and good spirits and to be very happy and content. So I do feel very grateful. Of course, any of that could change overnight, just like what happened with my heart. But I don't know if you feel the same way, at whatever your age you are, but even if something changed overnight, I've lived such a nice, long, happy life that I would still be content knowing that at least I had had all of those good years, where so many people don't get that. So probably the biggest question that I started asking myself after I turned 70 was, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Especially if I only have a number of years left. Is there something I haven't done yet that I really want to do? Is there something I feel like I should be doing? Are there any goals that I still want to achieve? If I knew today was the last day of my life, would I do anything differently than I'm doing? And I came to the realization, even though that was weird to start thinking about that a lot, and I never really thought I had to think about that as much because I always felt like I had quite a bit more time left. But knowing that you have a short amount of time, probably, statistically, it definitely got me thinking about that. And I realized, fortunately, that I'm perfectly happy. If I died tomorrow, I would die a very happy man. Now, that's not to say that there's still not a million things that I would love to do. And I sure hope that I have lots more new things to try before I die. But if not, I'm very content. And if I did know ahead of time, if we were lucky enough to know when we were going to go, I would, and I knew I only had one day left, I would pretty much do everything the same that I do every day now, except I would definitely make sure I had my favorite meal, which is spaghetti. Just simple spaghetti. I would have a big bowl of spaghetti, actually with meat sauce. I usually don't have spaghetti with meat sauce, but that's my favorite. So I would have a big bowl of spaghetti with meat sauce, and then I would eat as much ice cream as I possibly could eat. I'd have lots and lots of Rocky Road ice cream for dessert, and then I would take a nice long walk somewhere, come home, have a nice swim in the pool, and film it all, say goodbye to everyone, because I also love filming and making these YouTube videos. That also brings me a lot of joy, I think it's just because it's new and fun, there's always something to learn, and it's just a fun hobby. It's just sort of like a video diary, and I've always kind of done diaries and journals my whole life. So this is just a more fun way to do it on video, and I think it's more fun for other people to watch than to read someone's diary. But yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. I'd be perfectly happy, and then if I could just go to sleep and take a nap. I love naps, so I would, after doing all that, I would take a nap and just die in my sleep. That would be my perfect final day. I know, it's probably weird, right? To think about what your perfect final day is. I don't know. Have you guys thought about what your perfect final day would be? Share with us in the comments. I'd definitely love to read those comments. So yeah, if you're 70 or over and you want to share your experiences in the comments, that would be really fun. As far as this topic goes, did your life change dramatically, psychologically, physically, one or the other, or some other way when you turned 70? Or if you're not 70 yet, do you know someone, a parent, a grandparent, a friend who turned 70 and their life changed in a very dramatic way just because of that, just the knowledge that they were 70? Am I alone in this? I don't think so. I doubt it. I have a feeling it probably affects most people, or a lot of people, in the same way that it's probably affected me. But I don't know, I could be wrong. So I'd love to hear your comments. So anyway, take care everybody, and I'll see you later.